And then you're going to bring what you brought, right?
Hello, friends. Welcome to Capital Clarity today. For those of you standing in the back, it'd be great to find a seat, and get all comfortable, settle in. My name's Ron Nate. I'm the president of the Idaho Freedom Foundation, and this is another episode of Capital Clarity. So we have folks in the room, we have folks watching from home, and we'll have folks watch the recording later on too. So thank you for coming again. Today's a good one. Well, they're all good ones. I shouldn't say it that way. Capital Clarity is always awesome. Today we have the president of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, Greg Pruett, here. He'll be speaking. Also, Senator Christy Zito, who has been a champion of Second Amendment rights for all of her terms here in the legislature. She's got a committee meeting that they sprung on her at 12 o'clock today, but we hope that doesn't go long and she can join us maybe in a few minutes toward the bottom of the hour. Before we begin, I do want to announce a couple of things. We do plan on having Capital Clarity next week because the legislature keeps saying they will be done, but we're not so sure yet. So we'll be planning for a wrap-up Capital Clarity next week on Thursday. So watch your social medias for the details on that, but it'll be Thursday at noon, probably in this room, unless the Capitol clears out, and then we can find some other way to get a wrap-up to you. Tomorrow night is also special too. We will have Greg Pruett speaking there as well. I will speak. We'll have Christy Zito share some additional thoughts on the Second Amendment, and we'll have Second Amendment rights attorney Alexandria Kincaid speaking at our dinner. The dinner is Firearms for Freedom, and it's tomorrow night at the Hotel Renegade in Boise. Reception starts at 6. The dinner starts at 7. There's still about 25 tickets left for that. So if you haven't got your tickets, and there's a cap, they only let us sell so many. And so once those are sold, it's done. So if you haven't bought your tickets already, you have friends who want to go, get it done probably this afternoon so that you can make sure that you have access to the Firearms and Freedom. There will be prize giveaways. There'll be raffles for guns. We have, I think, 4 weapons, 3 of them guns, 2 of them handguns, and a knife, and then an AR style weapon, I believe. So all sorts of good stuff to give away, including some precious metals and some trivia prizes. It's going to be a fun night. And why are we celebrating Firearms and Freedom tomorrow night?
10-year anniversary.
It's a 10-year anniversary. That's right. 10 years ago, 2016 is when Idaho joined 8 other states to become a constitutional carry state. I've always said it's a little disappointing we have to pass laws to secure our Second Amendment rights, which should always be secure by the Second Amendment itself. But in Idaho, we did that. Constitutional carry is a thing here, largely due to the efforts of Greg Pruett, Representative Heather Scott at the time, myself. Christy Zito wasn't in the legislature yet, but she would have been right there with us. But we got a lot of good stuff done, and we're going to celebrate that tomorrow night. Let's proceed with Capital Clarity today, though. I want to introduce my good friend, Greg Pruett. He is the president of the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, has been there for close to 2 decades now. And he is your hero for Second Amendment rights all across Idaho. Not only just here in the Capitol, but he goes and fights for local communities and fights against city councils or counties or sheriffs who want to trample your Second Amendment rights. He's got a long track record of being a hero for us. Greg Pruett, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, Ron, and trust me, nothing. I love the introduction, I guess, but it's in the end, as Ron knows, it's not really about me. It's never really been about me. It's about you guys. It's really about the gun owners, the citizens when they mobilize. that ultimately can make the biggest difference. I want to go back just a little bit. So I was in the armed forces. I was in the Idaho Army National Guard. I served a tour in Iraq. I took an oath to defend the country, to defend this state. And when I came back from Iraq, I met my beautiful wife, and unfortunately for her, I wasn't in politics at the time, and that kind of came later, and she got roped into it. So when I started Idaho Second Amendment Alliance back in 2012, I was very naive. I thought, okay, these other four, at the time, there was only 4 states. I would say it was Vermont, Alaska, and Arizona, and I think there was one other at the time. Maybe there's only 3. Anyway, and I thought, well, we live in a Republican-controlled state, right? 80% controlled by the Republican Party. This has got to be a slam dunk. This is going to be the easy, honey, I'll go do this, and then we can live a normal life after this. At the time, I was still in the military, working full-time in the military, going to Boise State full-time, and I thought, why not start a political group? Because I'm not busy enough. And so I started this organization thinking in 2013, we were going to get this thing done. I'm going to tell these lawmakers all about constitutional carry. And so I did. I went to the Capitol and I talked to as many House and Senate members as I possibly could. And most of them was deer in the headlights. What is this guy talking about? What is this constitutional carry thing? We've never heard of this before. And I thought, okay, but they said, Greg, this you just need to come back next year and do it. Okay. Come back next year when it's an election year. That's the ideal time to do this. Well, I didn't know any better. I was like, oh, okay, that's fine. We can do it next year. That's no big deal. I come back to the Capitol in 2014, walk the halls, talking to everybody again. Greg, it's an election year. It's not a good year to do it. You should probably do it next year. And I'm thinking, okay, let's see, they're 2-year terms. You're saying the odd year is bad to do it. Now you're telling me the election year is a bad year. Yeah, we just don't want to rock the boat. I'm like, what are you talking about? We're in Idaho, and I'm getting frustrated, right? I'm thinking, what is happening? Why are these people telling me to just keep coming back the next year? Because I didn't realize what was going on. Because behind the scenes, here's the reality. And that's still the reality today. Nothing has changed from when I started doing this 13 years, almost 14 years ago. If you can't cause these people, and when I say these people, these elected officials, the vast majority of them, if you don't have the ability to unelect them, your opinion does not matter, okay? That's why they listen to the lobbyists. That's why they listen to the big PACs that have tons of money, because they know that if they listen to them, there's a higher probability they're going to get reelected. And so I said, I'm wasting my time here. And now Ron is now going to be in for the 2015 session, Ron and Heather. Okay. And so I thought, okay, maybe we finally got a couple good ones who will help out. But I realized I was wasting my time going down being a lobbyist, okay, by myself. By myself, they didn't care. But once we started flooding this place with thousands of phone calls and emails, all of a sudden it was like, what is happening? Who is this guy, and why are all these people calling us? Okay. I realized we had the power. Okay. I had the ability to just talk to the gun owners and say, be the lobbyist for your lawmaker. Okay. And they did. And 2015, man, we flooded this place. Now, what that did was it created a division. Okay. Because I wasn't the type of person that was going to compromise. I wasn't the type of person that was going to go in a back room like the NRA was doing at the time and cutting deals with lawmakers and compromise. I wasn't going to do it. And so I had a choice. I could be the typical lobbyist, activist that just wants access to these people, and I want to be their friend and do all this stuff. I could go that route. That's the route that's very comfortable. It's the route that is much easier. It's less painful. There's less mudslinging. I mean, it's a very easy route to go. Okay. And that's why most people choose it. Or I could keep going. I could keep the gun owners mobilized, active, and get them involved in the process. Okay. Because at the end of the day, they don't want you involved. They may say, pay attention to what your government's doing. Trust me, they don't want you to do that. Because if you pay attention to what's happening, you'd lose your mind. All right. That's what's happened to me and Ron. We've lost our minds because we're paying attention, and it's horrible. And so 2015, again, we flooded this place. We had House Bill 89. That was the first ever constitutional carry bill here in the state of Idaho. And the establishment, so there's a gentleman, former lawmaker named Tom Lurcher. Okay. Anybody know Tom Lurcher? Ever heard the name? A couple of you? Okay. Yeah. So Tom Lurcher, he had been in the Capitol, and he bragged to me to my face about this, me and one of our board members, that I've been in this place for 32 years. I'm like, dude, like, I think George Washington would actually go hang you from a tree outside. Like, this is not something to brag about. Okay. Like, this is terrible. You shouldn't be in here this long. And he's just bragging about how he's been in here for 32 years. Well, Chairman Lurcher, when he gets House Bill 89, he tells us he actually likes the bill. Okay. And I thought, here we go. We're on our way. We're going to do this thing. And then he got messages from Speaker Bedke, the NRA lobbyist at the time, and others: kill this thing. Don't let it go anywhere. Okay. And that was part of my wake up call to what the reality was inside the Capitol here. So Chairman Lurcher, he also made a decision. He made the decision he wanted to keep his chairmanship over doing what was right, expanding gun rights. And so he killed the bill. So me and my buddy Seth, we got in a car and drove down to this guy's district, and we started handing out literature, door knocking, and going to the gas stations and we said, this is the guy who's blocking your gun rights. He's blocking the bill. All right, got on social media. We started sounding the alarm. Okay, this is the guy who's a problem. And we did this to him for a number of years. And in 2016, we finally get the bill passed. Okay. And we actually, and you guys need to know this because this kind of stuff happens all the time. This is important. And Ron will remember this too. So it's 2016, late 2016. So deep in the session, kind of like the gun bill they just introduced this morning, or we had a hearing on and passed. And it's really late in the session, and they finally have this constitutional carry bill. Well, Senate Bill 1389 is the one that passed. However, what a lot of people don't remember is about 11 numbers before that, it was Senate Bill 1378 or something. There was a bill that came out. It got introduced. And the way that Idaho's law was at the time, we had constitutional carry prior to 2015, 16, all of that, okay? But it only applied outside city limits. So if you were an American, an Idahoan, and you were 21 and older outside of city limits, you could carry. It was inside city limits that we were trying to fight for. Well, the NRA went back with Bedke and Senator Lakey and others and said, here's the bill. And what they were going to do was they were going to say 21 and older throughout the state, but only for Idahoans. So they were going to strip gun rights outside of city limits for every other American, and it was only going to apply to Idahoans. Now, you have to understand that most activists in that situation, they're going to take the compromise. Okay, they're going to say, I don't care. I'm getting what I want. I was an Idahoan. I am an Idahoan, right? I'm going to get what I want for constitutional carry. It'd be very easy to let that go. And we didn't. We came down. We protested outside the Senate chambers and said, this has gun control in it. You are literally controlling guns because you're taking gun rights away from all these Americans outside of city limits. What are we doing? We're going backwards. Why don't we just do it everywhere for everybody? Okay, so they came out with Senate Bill 1389, which just said, okay, Idahoans inside city limits 21 and older. Okay, so we didn't get everything we wanted, but we weren't going backwards. And that's when Senator Christy Zito came in. In the following years, we had to fight 2 more times. Number one, we fought so that constitutional carry applied to all Americans everywhere in the state, because these arbitrary lines of when you're outside city limits and coming in, like, who's going to know that, right? What average Idahoan's going to know that? So Christy came in and she took care of that. And then she came in and she also did another bill that said I think it was actually 18 to 21, you had it outside city limits, but not inside city limits. And so she came in, cleaned all that up, and was able to get those passed. So back to Chairman Lurcher. So we spent a couple years going, this guy keeps blocking gun legislation over and over and over again. And it got frustrating, but we kept going to his district. We kept educating the gun owners in his district. This is the guy causing problems here at the Capitol. And then election time comes around and he's being challenged by a guy named Chad Christensen. Does everybody know Chad? Okay, a lot more of you have probably heard of Chad maybe than Tom. And we're up till like 3 o'clock in the morning. They're still counting votes. A 32-year incumbent. We were the only organization that had been involved in this race. The establishment didn't do anything. No other conservative groups really did anything. I don't think anybody thought the guy could be beat because he had been here for 32 years. And 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I remember it was really late. Finally, Chad ends up beating this guy by 150 votes. Okay. Now, golly, when was that? When did Lurcher lose? 2016, maybe? It might have been 2018. I don't remember. Next year, we come back in the Capitol and everything is different. Okay. At that point, I realized the power that you guys have as not just gun owners, but any issue, okay? Whether it's life, taxes, whatever your issue is that you care about, if you mobilize enough people, they have to be afraid that they'll lose their jobs at the end of the day, or they just don't care, guys. That's the reality. It's still the reality now. Okay, I'm going to get a little off topic here, but they're holding up immigration bills. Okay, again, and so what I've been telling people is they're holding up all the illegal immigration reform. Well, that's Senator Guthrie. So now you have a choice. Okay, if you don't cost him his election as voters, then they come back next year feeling much more powerful, right? Because if you can't take them out, then they don't care. But if you can make a difference, if you guys can mobilize for the issues you care about, you can make a huge difference. And that's what the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, from top to bottom, like Ron said, we get involved at the city level, the county level. I went to the White House during Trump's first term, when he was like, take the guns first and let's do red flag laws. And we were like, no, let's not do red flag laws. And so we went to the White House and met with some advisors and said, whatever he's saying, he's getting terrible advice. Stop listening to these people. So you make the difference in the end. Right now, we got another gun bill. So let's talk about the current gun bill that just got a public hearing and cleared the Senate State Affairs Committee this morning. It deals with firearm preemption. Does anybody know what firearm preemption law means? A couple people? Okay. So most states have what is called firearm preemption. What that means is that the state controls, which they shouldn't even do it, because like Ron said, the Second Amendment should be, like, our laws should literally say, see the Second Amendment when it comes to guns, okay? It doesn't do that right now. So we have to do this nonsense at the Capitol. But most states have a law, because if you went from Boise, okay, if you gave Boise the ability to regulate firearms, what do you think it'd look like here? Wouldn't be very good, right? I don't think Lauren McLean is all pro Second Amendment, okay? So that wouldn't be great. Okay, but you could drive from here, and then all of a sudden you drive out to Wilder, and Wilder's, hey, let's roll tanks down the road. We don't care. Okay. And so you don't want to have this patchwork of laws across the state. And so in 2008, they passed firearm preemption, which just says the state controls regulations on firearms. That's possession, purchasing, transferring, like everything. Everything is controlled by the state, so that the cities can't do their own thing. Okay, great law. Most states have this. Now, the problem with the law, as you guys saw last year, what happened last year with the flag bill? What was the big issue with the flag bill last year? There's no penalties. There's no penalties. There's no enforcement mechanism, because typically the government doesn't want to hold itself accountable. Okay, if you break the law, they're more than happy to throw you in jail, fine you, and do all this stuff. If they break the law, they're like, well, oh well. Okay. So our preemption law that was passed in 2008, okay, so this predates my involvement in politics and gun politics, has no penalties. There's nothing in there. And we realized this was an issue a long time ago, because our organization to date has helped overturn 90 violations of the preemption statute, okay? 90 in the state of Idaho. Now, a lot of those, a huge chunk of those, are cities that have had stuff on the books from like the 50s, okay, and their ordinances that say you can't carry a revolver. We actually just did this in, it was a little town up north. It's totally escaping my mind now. It was like 300 people in the town. They still had an ordinance that we found this year that said you couldn't carry a revolver walking down the street in this town or something, okay? So a lot of those, it was those things. Not a big deal, okay? Most of the cities and counties have worked really well with us to get their stuff in line with what state law is. Well, in 2015, 16, 17, somewhere in there, I don't know, it was a long time ago, the city of Coeur d'Alene had an ordinance that was in violation. It said you could not carry a firearm within 100 feet of a parade. So we wrote a letter, and this is typically what we do. We find a violation, we write up a letter, and we send it to the city and say, hey, no big deal, but your ordinance or this sign that's in the park is in violation of state law. Okay. Well, the city of Coeur d'Alene, if you know anything about Coeur d'Alene, it's not exactly the most conservative city in our state. Okay. It's liberal and it's getting much worse. And the city of Coeur d'Alene was like, well, we don't care. Well, we couldn't do anything. There was nothing we could do because there's no enforcement mechanism in the law. There was no way to hold these guys accountable. And so we've had a number of mostly liberal cities, okay, that have violated the statute even after we've told them you need to get it fixed. Now, eventually, Coeur d'Alene did the right thing, and their city council, I think it was a 3-2 vote or something, that they voted to overturn that ordinance, even though it clearly violated state law. And so what we have now with Senate Bill 1430 is it's going to do a couple things. Number one, it will, and this will be headed to the Senate floor, golly, fast, I assume sometime tomorrow probably. And then it's got to come over on the House side to get passed. But it will do a couple things. Number one, they added the word policy, okay? So it says you can't have any ordinances and mostly ordinances and regulations, but there are certain counties that have tried to pass policies to impact their own employees when it comes to firearms. And so this bill actually says, no, you can't do that either. Just stop, right? Just stop doing this. Okay. If we find a violation, so let's say this passes and goes into effect on July 1st, and we find a violation, we can notify the Attorney General. Okay. So now the Attorney General is going to be involved in this process. So we notify the Attorney General, and we would probably also notify the city of the violation. The Attorney General then has 30 days to do an investigation. He has to do this investigation within 30 days and determine, is this, so let's just say there's a city here in Boise, a park has a no gun sign on it, okay, public park. They can't do that because they're regulating possession. It's a public place, okay? So we say, hey, city of Boise, this park sign is in violation. The AG's office comes out and says, yep, you're violating the law. You now have 30 days. 30 days, by the way, there's a $10,000 fine per violation. I guess it should be a lot higher than that, but that's better than what we got now. Then they have 30 days. If they don't cure it, okay, or correct it within that 30-day time limit, then we can file a lawsuit as an organization against the city or county or whatever. Okay. If we prevail in court, which we would in that case, then the city or county also has to reimburse our legal fees as an organization because we're fighting on behalf of the citizens. And so we're hopeful, I think, that this will be a good deterrent for future issues. Most of you probably, I don't know if you guys heard, there's been a couple counties, I think Twin Falls County was one, Jerome County, a couple counties have been trying to skirt around this right now with these county facilities. Okay. So right now you can't carry in a courthouse, right? I think everybody knows. You go to your local county courthouse, there's going to be a sheriff's deputy there, and you're going to walk through scanners and all that stuff, okay? So what the counties have been doing is attaching everything and saying, well, when you go to the DMV, even though you're not going through security, it's part of the courthouse or it's part of this, so you can't carry in here. And to us, we're saying, no. Outside of like a detention facility or courthouse, like you can't just stop people who are going in to pay their taxes from defending themselves. And so there was another bill that's actually stuck that in Chairman Crane's committee, it was 630 or 621 or something like that. Anyway, so there's a lot of stuff going on down here, a lot of stuff that Idaho still needs to fix, still needs to correct when it comes to gun rights. But this preemption law, if you're going to get involved right now, if you want to put some pressure on your lawmakers right now, Senate Bill 1430 that is now in the Senate would be the big one that we definitely need this in place. Honestly, outside of my organization, a lot of people probably won't care necessarily, but it's a big deal, okay? How long before Lauren McLean just decides to say, we don't care about your preemption law, we're just going to do what we want? And along those lines, we really have to reform this entire thing at some point. But we took a case from Sandpoint all the way to the Idaho Supreme Court. And this is how precarious and dangerous of a situation we're in as a state right now. Does anybody know Senator Scott Herndon? Okay, a couple of you. So Senator Herndon, he wasn't a senator at the time, he was a citizen, and we had been talking to him. They banned guns at a public park up in Sandpoint because they did a temporary permit. It was some concert, I can't remember what it was called. Festival at Sandpoint, I think is what it was called. And they said, you can't bring guns in here. We're like, well, wait a minute. It's a public park. If the city doesn't have the authority to regulate firearms, how can they give that authority to someone else on public property? That was our argument. That was the argument of Second Amendment attorneys across the country that heard about this case. Well, we take it up to the Idaho Supreme Court, and the Idaho Supreme Court says 5-0 said, no, we disagree. It's private property once they've had that lease or that permit. And we're like, wait, what? Like, you're telling me that if I go have a public event at a public park and I banned people of a certain religion or race or sex or something, you're telling me the court's going to say that's okay on public property? I don't think so. Okay, but gun owners, you guys know this for years, we've been treated as second-class citizens, right? Your right to keep and bear arms is always low on the list of protections that the courts will give you. That's scary, because nothing honestly would stop Lauren McLean right now from giving all the public parks, the power of those public parks, over to a nonprofit. Okay, the Friends of Boise Parks. Okay, give control to them, and now you've leased the parks to them. They control it, and now they can ban guns. That's what the Idaho Supreme Court says is totally fine. So we're in a very bad situation right now, where if we don't get this fixed, and we're working on it, that's the kind of stuff that we might have to face. In closing here, I haven't seen Christy come back yet. Or out of committee yet, so I don't know how yeah. So we are, as an organization, we're working hard. In fact, we've, for those that don't know, I ran the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance. We've now made the ISA a project of Honor Idaho, because I wanted to go out and fight on some other stuff. I wanted to take that model of no compromise, getting in the trenches against the left. And we changed the ISA name with the federal government to Honor Idaho, and we're going to go out and fight the abortion initiative. Okay, not as the gun group. I'm tired. I'm tired of seeing a state like Idaho go down this path that Colorado and Virginia and Oregon and Washington, California, Arizona is going down this path. Utah's probably further down this path than we are. These liberals, they're like locusts, and they destroy the place they're in and then come somewhere else and try to do the same thing. These ballot initiatives are killing us. They are They go to California, ask them about the ballot. They have 20 of them in 1 year on the ballot. The left has figured out they can use these ballot initiatives to destroy our state. We've been talking about this for years, going, guys, they'll do a gun ballot initiative, a gun control one, and we don't know if we can stop it, because they don't mind lying and cheating their way to victory. Okay, take the abortion initiative right now. Do you think they're telling people that the initiative kills babies up until the day of birth? They're not telling people that. They're not going to say anything about that. It's about saving women who are going to die in the hospital. It's just about their health care. Well, the average voter, Republican or Democrat, is going to hear that and go, okay, let's do that. And that's the type of stuff it's driven me crazy for years. And so Honor Idaho, one of our biggest goals is to go out and stop these initiatives. They've tried gun control initiatives in other states and been successful. So for instance, you could do background checks, okay? Universal background checks. Anybody know what that is? Okay, it's honestly a backdoor to gun registration. So if I want to sell, Ron's one of my best friends, okay? If I want to sell a gun to Ron, universal background check says I have to go get permission from the government. You'll have the FBI, who's totally trustworthy, and the ATF and everybody else, okay? I have to go get permission to sell a gun to Ron or give him a gift or whatever. It could apply to your kids, your grandkids. It just depends on how they write it. But when they've gone out and done these in other states, you know what they tell people? It's to stop criminals from getting guns. Well, who doesn't support that? Right? Of course, I don't want criminals to have guns. And that's how they pitch it. Okay, that's how they'll pitch this abortion initiative if they get it on the ballot. It's just to save women who are dying in the hospital. They're not going to tell you about the babies that are all going to die. as a result. And Ron knows this. I mean, we've got to mobilize against the liberals. If we don't do something different than Colorado and all these other states, we'll end up in the exact same spot. And I've given up everything. My lovely wife, again, she's put up with a lot to have me keep doing this kind of stuff. We've been through lawsuits and death threats and everything you could possibly imagine. Okay. But I love the people here. I love serving Idahoans, and my oath to defend, my country, my state certainly applies just as much now as it did when I took that oath in the military. So anyway, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. Does anybody have any quick questions before Ryan? Oh, sure. It's a Q&A time. I guess it is now.
My question is, what was the response from law enforcement when you started this 10 years ago? What's been their continual response, and have any of the negative predictions associated with the bill come to pass in the last 10 years?
Oh, yes, the doom and gloom. I should have brought up the doom and gloom. You guys remember when constitutional carry, there was going to be shootouts in the streets and shootouts in the parking lots of Walmart. It was going to be a bloodbath in Idaho. And we knew that wasn't going to be the case, because by the time we got around to doing it in 2016, like Ron said, there was already 8 states that had it, and that wasn't an issue. We're going, Vermont's had it since the beginning of the country. So like whatever you're predicting doesn't seem to be happening there. In terms of the law enforcement and Second Amendment legislation, this has been a really frustrating part. The bureaucrats, the agencies, so the Fraternal Order of Police and the Idaho Sheriff's Association, that's typically the 2 big ones that come down. They've been opposed to almost every really solid pro-gun bill that has ever come in this place. They're fighting us every single time. And these guys will write a gun bill, and what does the FOP think? I don't care. Like, I really don't care. Like, I don't work for them. I'm here to serve the people, not the government. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if the FOP is opposed, okay. Like I would wish they wouldn't. And here's the difference though, is we've noticed the difference between the lobbyists for the FOP and the Sheriff's Association and the heads of those versus the guys on the ground. When we talked to cops on the ground about constitutional carry, they didn't care. They're like, sure, the more armed good people, that we have a better chance of not picking up a body of a good person, and maybe the bad guy's dead instead. So most of them support it. We can't get the FOP and the Sheriff's Association to get on board. The best we can do is get them to come out neutral and not oppose what we're trying to do. The Stand Your Ground bill, the SHIELD Act that Senator Zito introduced, incredible bill. And I was hoping she was here so she could tell you more about it, but I'll just briefly say something. Same thing, law enforcement's losing their minds because the SHIELD Act puts the pressure back on the government. Okay, if I defend myself, I shouldn't have to go to jail and sit in jail while you come up with some phony case against me. The SHIELD Act says, no, within 2 weeks, I can invoke a pre-trial stand your ground hearing, essentially, and the government has to provide some evidence. It doesn't have to be, it's not a super high bar. You've got to show something that you have some reason to charge me. Okay, and if you're going to charge me and we're going to go to trial, okay, well, we're going to go to trial. If my jury of my peers says Greg Pruett acted in self-defense under the Stand Your Ground law, now the county is going to reimburse my legal fees. Okay, you're going to get reimbursed. Look, your life has already been ruined because you had to take another human life potentially. Now we're going to ruin you financially because you defended yourself. So there better be dang good evidence for you to push this thing to trial. This happened in Ada County last year, guys. Cameron Theron, he's a veteran, Black Hawk helicopter pilot. I went to his trial. Christy went to the pretrial hearings. This guy went down to a bus stop. There was some lunatic, okay? This guy was literally mentally insane. And nobody knew that at the time. He was out there threatening kids. He tried to throw himself in front of a truck. He went after this guy's wife and kids in their car. And he pulled out his rifle at the low ready, had it ready to go, and was like, get back away from my family. Okay, goes back home. He thinks it's all over. Well, Ada County sheriffs, or not, excuse me, the Boise PD, might have been the sheriffs, I can't remember now. Anyway, and Jan Bennett's, the Republican prosecutor here, said, well, let's charge him with felony assault, 2 counts of felony assault and then brandishing. tried to ruin this guy's life for doing what everybody in this dang room knows, that if you heard that there was a bus stop and some lunatic was running around threatening kids, everybody in here would be like, somebody go stop him, right? And this guy was in jail, and it terrified me. I was sitting in the courtroom when they read the not guilty verdict. Thankfully, you didn't know, you looked at the jury, you thought, man, we're in Ada County. This is not good. This poor guy spent 30 grand on his trial, which is actually really cheap compared to what I thought he would have spent. And I talked to his wife, and she's just crying, and he says not guilty, right? The jury says not guilty, and you're just thinking, holy cow, this could have been any one of us, and this isn't a Republican county, allegedly. So this bill is needed, but the prosecutors are coming after us, the sheriffs are coming after us, the FOP, all of them are mobilizing to stop this thing, because it really does put the onus back on them that you are innocent until proven guilty, and you can't just start ruining people's lives because you're the government and you have all that power. So we're trying to flip the script back to where it should have been. So anyway, thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
When you talk about the lobbyists, it's Idaho, I think we ought to have a hunting season for them. But people need to go down, is it this level? Anyway, the little conferencing room where you can watch the little video about the legislator.
Yeah.
And it says that they're here to represent the people. And I think you've made it very clear that they don't even know who the people are. And why would the NRA be against the gun stuff?
Well,
Weren't we going to take it from his cold dead hands, Heston?
I know. Look, there's some good NRA lobbyists. There's some bad ones. The NRA, I think, is getting a little bit better than they have in the past. But the NRA helped write most of the Gun Control Act of '68. They helped write that. Like, they were in the room and helped decide what was going to be in there and all that. I mean, so they've compromised for a really long time. I think it's gotten a little bit better because all these other big groups popped up, GOA and some others that have helped push. Like, the NRA came out for red flag laws when Chris Cox actually confronted him about it last year at conference. So yeah, they go behind the scenes and work with the worst people in this building to push gun legislation. I don't get it. I don't understand. It even happened this year. Again, the lobbyist here is a lot better than the ones we've had in the past, but it's very frustrating. And that was also very eye-opening for me, by the way, when I got
You understand it's the money.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. So
I was there at 68 Control Act. I was involved in that.
yeah, 100% about the money. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, you mentioned Senator Guthrie, who's holding up a lot of good legislation. Is he the one out Pocatello area?
He's an eco.
Okay.
But yeah.
I just found out yesterday there is a fellow Idaho Guardsman who's running against him, David Worthy. Oh, good. Okay. I just would like to hear you say something really positive about him. Maybe we all can send him $100 each and get Guthrie out of here.
Fantastic guy, very upstanding guardsman. I've known him since I was in the Guard because we were in the Guard together.
Oh, wow.
And just really well spoken, amazing candidate. He's came close on a couple races that he's been in. So it'll be a really interesting race. But Guthrie's he's blocked so much stuff. Last year he blocked a school carry bill, or maybe it was 2 years ago, and then he introduced his own school carry bill that was so bad. Moms Demand Action. Okay, the biggest gun control group in the country came out in favor of the bill. I'm like, Guthrie, what does that tell you, man? This is so, like, Melissa Wintrow, one of the most anti-gun senators here. She was in favor of the bill. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is where we've gotten to. That's the type of stuff that he's putting out. So yeah, anyway. So
Okay.
it'll be
on my checkbook then.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, we have a little more time here. So what I'm going to do is give you some more insights that Greg's modesty has prevented him from sharing with you way back in 2016. And he is right. In 2015, the constitutional carry bill gets stopped by a committee chairman. And Representative Heather Scott and myself were freshman legislators. We'd only been in there a couple of months at that point. And we saw the Second Amendment Alliance kick into gear with its network of people all across the state who are engaged in trying to protect, or actually restore and protect, Second Amendment rights. And the media campaign that they could do with their grassroots included social media, phone calls, emails. Early on in the next legislative session, I got called into the speaker's office saying, hey, you need to get people to stop abusing Chairman Lurcher with their emails. And I'm like, I don't control the people. I'm here to represent the people. And behind the scenes, I got to tell you this, it was Greg Pruett, Heather Scott, and myself made several dozen phone calls with each other, strategizing on what to do. We introduced a bill before leadership wanted us to introduce a bill. We did a press conference, we made it a front row issue, and I know people want more niceness in politics, but I'm telling you this, sometimes it is the confrontational politics that is necessary to get leaders to feel the heat to do the right thing. Without confrontational politics, I'm working on this analogy. It's like an oil tanker that leadership drives. They want this safe path, and the people are little tugboats trying to push it in the right direction, but they're not doing anything to this big oil tanker. You know, the few of them that can leave their job for a day and talk in the afternoon in a committee, it's not really doing anything. And so the Second Amendment Alliance amasses a number of tugboats, and still it's hard to move that tanker. But what they do is they say, you know what? It's not just about us changing your course. It's about, sometimes it's easier for the tugboat to push an iceberg in front of that tanker to get leadership to finally turn the wheel in the right direction for the people. And so working on putting those icebergs in there that, you know what? You stop this bill, it is going to cost you in the next election. And Greg has become a pro at that. Is Christy leaving?
Which speaker was that?
Okay. Yeah, come on now. Okay. Here's Senator Christy Zito. I'll be back, but I want Senator Zito to take some time here. Oh, I'll tell you. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want names.
You go stand and tall and let me know when they start.
Yes.
This isn't going to work because you're taller than I am.
Stand on the platform.
It's away from the microphone. Anyway, I'm Senator Christy Zito, and I'm just thrilled to be here today. And I apologize. We don't usually do Education Committee at noon. And then, anyway, it's a long story. But, you know, you would not think that in a state like Idaho, it would take so many years to get constitutional carry. When I came into the legislature, I was just shocked. But I do have to admit that constitutional carry is the reason that I am here, because my first opponent voted against it. I think one of only 3 Republicans in the whole entire legislature, at the House anyway, that voted against constitutional carry. But it is our right to be able to defend ourselves, our homes, and those in our presence from whatever might come along. I'm sure that most of you in here have seen the video that Greg cut the other day when we talked about why I am so passionate about our right to defend ourselves, because I've had to do it. And I was with my 11-year-old daughter, and the thing that stayed in my mind the most, and the thing that made it possible for me to pick my firearm up and make the commitment that if I had to, I would pull the trigger, is what do you tell your 11-year-old daughter if something horrible happens to her that she's going to have to live with the rest of her life? Or even if she has to watch something happen to her mother that she has to live with for the rest of her life. So knowing that and having that in my mind when the time came, it was hard because I was committing to the possibility of taking 1 or maybe 2 other human lives to defend my daughter. But that's our right and that's our duty. It's our job as parents and our jobs as citizens in this great country to defend the lives of others, because it's given to us by God. But all that aside, back to the Idaho thing, it was so much fun to run this bill, even though it was hard and it took us a lot of time. I have a picture in I'm going to step off this and fall if I'm not careful because I'm right on the edge. But anyway, we worked hard on this. We had a Chairman Lurcher was chairman of the State Affairs Committee, and he would call me. I would go into his office with Representative Hanks at the time, and we would ask him, are you going to give us our bill of hearing? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Finally, one day he decides, yeah, I'm going to give your bill of hearing, sends his secretary to me and said, your hearing's going to be Monday morning. So there was a gal in North Idaho whose family had gone through a deadly force thing, and her husband was actually in prison. And so Greg put out a call to action, and all the gun owners in the state put in money, and we were able to fly her down here, get her a hotel. She had 2 young boys. I think one was 8 and one was 10 at the time. And she was trying to take care of them by herself while her husband was serving a 10-year sentence in prison for somebody following him into their home. And he took one of the men's lives. There were 2 of them, and they actually came into his home. And so all the gun owners in the state put money together to be able to fly her down here, get her a hotel, buy her meals. And there was even money for her to be able to take back to buy stuff for her kids that they needed. Well, I'm on my way to the airport to get her on Sunday afternoon. And Representative Lurcher's, Chairman Lurcher's secretary called me, and she said, he's changed his mind. He's not going to give you a hearing. That's the kind of stuff we went through. Well, needless to say, he lost his next election over it. But you know, this is what it takes. You know, we get beat up on all the time because we believe in confrontational politics. But confrontational politics isn't being mean. It's not beating up on somebody per se. But what it is it's saying, this is what the people want. This is where we stand. And we see that with the Gang of 8 all the time. We took a pledge. And there are times when we get beat up really bad because we made the pledge, we made the promise to the people of the state of Idaho. And that's how we were with constitutional carry. This was the promise that we made. And you stand up for what you believe in. Because once you start to compromise, it doesn't take very long before freedom and liberty and the republic is gone. And folks, I'm really concerned that we're getting really close to the republic being gone here in Idaho. If you really look at some of the legislation that's being put across between the chambers this year, it's pretty concerning. And I know we're not here to talk about that stuff, but it all goes back to our rights. It all goes back to our freedoms. It all goes back to our ability to exercise those God-given rights that the Constitution of the United States protects and relies on us to defend. So I think I might have to go back. Ron, do I have to go back? Have they closed the door?
Still milling around.
Okay. Okay. But anyway, I just also want to close with, it has been an honor for me in my 10 years so far in this building, 8 as a legislator and 2 lobbying for the Idaho Second Amendment Alliance, to be able to stand up for you. One more story I have to tell. We were working on, was it stand your ground or constitutional carry still? And it was it doesn't matter what the issue is. This shows the dedication of the people of the state of Idaho. It was a very, very, very cold morning in February. And Greg was going to come to the Capitol. They were still living here in Caldwell. And he had put out a call to action the night before because there was going to be a hearing on our bill. And he put out a call to action. Everybody come to the Capitol, show your support. You know, we need to rally it so that the committee chairmen know that we're serious about this. And the people who vote in this building know that we mean what we say when we say we want our gun rights protected. And he called me and he says, dang, he says, you know, it's going to take me 20 minutes longer to get to the building because the roads are just slick as ice and there's a couple of accidents. And, you know, he says, I just don't know how many people we're going to have show up. He said, but we'll do the best we can to support you in working on this legislation. So I went to my state affairs committee, and I'm not expecting to see many people show up because the weather was bad and it was cold and I understood all that. I walk out of my state affairs committee. There were 250 armed Idaho citizens up and down the hallway supporting that gun bill on a morning when they never should have probably left their house. And I know there were 250 of them because I'm standing there looking at Greg and he said, well, aren't you going to do something? And I'm like, I'm just so overwhelmed. I shook the hand of every person in that hall, every one of them, and thanked them for being here because I don't know where else in this country, number one, that you can come into your house, into the people's house, into the state house, and carry your gun. You can carry in the Idaho Capitol. That doesn't happen just everywhere. I was in the Georgia State House as a legislator, and we had to go through the metal detectors and the whole entire thing to get in that state house. But here in Idaho, we were free to do that. And here in Idaho, 250 armed men, women were lining that hall to support the right to keep and bear arms. And I don't know anywhere else in the country that something like that would happen. You really have something to be proud of. And I'm so proud to represent you in this cause. And I'm just so grateful for your support through the years. And I just thank you. And I don't have anything left to say. So thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. And thank you most of all to Greg Pruett and his family, because I personally know the sacrifices that they have made to do this. I know what they go through as a family. I know the hits they take. I know what people say about them and how mean people can be to them. But thank God for them and the strength that this family has, and I'm so grateful to them. Thank you so much.
I told you she was good. So thank you again, Senator Zito, for being here and for all you do for the people of Idaho over the years and that you continue to keep doing. And we need her back. She has a primary race, and so I encourage everyone to be informed. We will be distributing our Idaho Freedom Index shortly after the legislative session ends, so that you can look at all your legislators' freedom scores and their spending scores, and you can see how their actions may or may not match up with what they say on the campaign trail. It is your information so that you can be fully informed and not swayed by the political speak that you see sometimes out there, where every piece of literature you get in the mail for a Republican primary says strong conservative, proven conservative, common sense conservative. They all say it because the word conservative is supposed to mean something, but freedom scores don't lie. Spending index scores don't lie. You can get the truth with our freedom index. Again, I want to remind you that Firearms and Freedom is tomorrow night, 6 o'clock for the reception, 7 o'clock for the dinner. There's still about 24 tickets left, and that's all there is. And so once they're sold, it's done. And so get on there today. I'm looking at you at home too. Get on idahofreedom.org and you can click on the Firearms and Freedom dinner and buy your tickets. And we hope to see you all there tomorrow night. Again, thank you for another great edition of Capital Clarity. And I'm going to say it now. We will be here next week, regardless of whether the legislature's out. I kind of think they'll still be in. But we will be here next week at noon, and we'll give you a policy wrap-up of what the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the what didn't move through the legislature, and give a rundown of it and tell you how we could probably do better next year, and whatever good stuff happened this year, we can run that down too. So thank you again. Have a great day, and appreciate you coming.